This is 7th Generation Warfare, and I am your current host, John Nelson. In this episode, we will be looking at strategic relocation. What do I mean by relocation? I mean moving. What do I mean by strategic? Well, as we haven't gotten to it yet in Marine Corps Doctrinal Publication number 1, there are 3 levels in warfare. There's the tactical level, which would be the troops on the ground, deciding how to kick in a door or move around and close with and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver. There's the operational level, which is controlling units right there on the battlefield. And then there's the strategic level, which is the broadest, people in the Pentagon making decisions on how to conduct the entirety of the war, the entire theaters of war, etc. So strategic is the biggest umbrella over a war. And this video, or this channel, is 7th Generation Warfare, so we know it's about securing the will of our descendants. So therefore, strategic relocation means the moving of one's family, or as it grows bigger, the moving of one's tribe for purposes of securing greater opportunity for them to exercise their will. So I'll say that one more time. Strategic relocation in 7th Generation Warfare is the moving of one's family or tribe for purposes of securing greater opportunity for the exercise of their will. And ultimately, if you have little children, you have the control over them, but which I think I've discussed in another video, don't take the decision of moving, your little children lightly, because that could cause some great trauma. And that might come back to hurt you in your 7th Generation Warfare. But if your children are grown, or we're talking about great-grandchildren or whatever here, understand that they have their own will, and the moving or not moving is going to be their decision to make. So some reasons for strategic relocation. There are some pretty obvious ones, such as like refugeeism or war or disaster, etc. Big catastrophic things happening in your area, and you just need to get out and just get a fresh start somewhere else. There could also be just an unbearable political environment or spiritual decay in your area, and you think the overall community, and I think this is becoming more and more obvious in certain parts of the United States, the environment's just becoming more and more toxic, more and more damaging to one's being, and so you want to get to a better place and have your family raised in a better place. There could be major economic changes in economic opportunity. Some examples of this could be like a manufacturing town where the manufacturing went overseas, or a mining town where the mine shut down. Something where there's really not a wide diversity of economic opportunities, and the major one gets taken out. But also it could just be the slow decay of just productivity in the area. Maybe you're living in a more of an urban environment, and you don't like the type of economic opportunity that's there. You don't want your descendants living in cubicles when they get to their professional age, and you want them working with their hands or something more like that. So maybe you'd move to the country. But things like that could be reasons for strategic relocation. There are many other reasons to strategic relocate, and to include just the general sense that there is something better. You might not, hopefully you're wise enough to be able to put your finger on why you don't like the area you're at, but you might not be able to, and you might just know that there's something better somewhere else. I'd really work on a 6th Generation Warfare, understanding your own will in order to discover why you might feel the things you feel about the area you currently live. But if you need to get out, you need to get out, and a fresh start can always help. I've done that in my life. The problem you run into there is if you don't know why you're running, then your problems could follow you. So just be mindful of your problems following you wherever you go. So ideally, your extended family will be so tight, and I think if you follow some of the things that I'm promoting on this channel, and you really prioritize your family, that your family will be so tight, and they will move as a unit. A very well trained unit on a battlefield has rehearsed many situations that might arise in combat. So they have immediate action drills and things like that. They just instinctively know where each other are going to be at. They won't get any friendly fire, and they won't leave men, hanging out there to fight all alone. So the same is true of your family. If you work with your family, work to hold the same values, overcome your differences, understand what people feel about the current position they are in their life, both from in any aspect, but here we're mostly talking about geographically, how they feel about the place they live, whether or not they have any desires to move. If you engage in those conversations regularly, then it won't be a shocker, should they move. And hopefully you've gotten to the point that you might be able to encourage them to stay a little bit longer, so that another family member might be able to come with all of you, and you might be able to move as a group, instead of everyone just fracturing and going off their own ways. It's possible that one person just holds on a little bit longer so that the other people can close up what they're doing, and then you can strategically relocate together would be the ideal. Some ways to ensure that your family moves together, and I've kind of touched on some of these already. You want to have your family feel rooted and established in an area, because that's the way you have the confidence to build, to be productive, to really set down the roots. So you want them to feel rooted, but you should always not promote. You should always discuss the opportunity of relocation. Like, no one is prisoner to where they were born. And so I live in a town currently where there are a lot of townies. I in many ways, my father's a townie in the town I grew up. I was fourth generation to graduate from that high school, and I was voted most likely to stay in that town. And there was many forces that wanted to tie me there, permanently, but you're not tied to the location in which you were born. So moving forward, I will certainly be sharing the benefits and limitations of moving. As I said, you can certainly bring your problems with you. And I don't, when it comes time, if my children want to move, that's their decision. Hopefully I'll be in a position to move with them and will be able to encourage my other children to move along with us. But I want to give them the confidence that they can move, and in fact, give them the idea that we should be moving as a unit. So therefore we can supply mutual aid, in getting secured. Moving to a new area can be it's really quite destructive, or what's the word I'm looking for? Disruptive. It's disruptive because you're giving away. You might not be losing financial capital when you move, because you sell your house and you buy a new house, and there might not be much loss there. You are giving up, a job, and it might take a while to get reestablished, especially if you're in an entrepreneurial setting, which I encourage most people to do. Getting a client base is not easily done. Getting recognition in the community as a trustworthy business person is not, easily done. So there is a setup time, but if you move together, you can support each other, help each other get connections. You might meet somebody who is in the industry that your niece who moved, around the same time you did, might be in that, industry, and you might be able to hook them up with a job. There's also just the general, like, the natural capital. If you live on a more of a homestead property, giving that up to you move to a new place, you got to replant all the fruit trees. There's all kinds of disruptive things and setbacks that will come from moving. But when the time comes to strategically relocate for any of the reasons or any more of the reasons mentioned up above, you will want to do it. And you shouldn't hesitate. Hesitation kills. So my second point was helping your family understand the expense incurred by moving, which I think I've gone over. One way to help ensure that your kids are not afraid of moving, and since your children really need to fight their own sixth generation warfare when they become of age, that is understanding how to secure their own will, to separate themselves from the dogma or propaganda that they've been fed, which you as a parent have been part of doing. Hopefully they will logically come back to the position you provided them, but they need to fight their own sixth generation warfare to discover who they are, right? So one of the ways to do that, and I'm planning on doing this, is basically kicking my kids out of the house when they turn 18, having them, encouraging them, I'll be encouraging them all along to spend a couple of years to explore the world and to make it on their own. And encourage them to, like, leave the state, like, go, there's a whole world out there. Go figure out where your place is in it. And if you're confident enough in your parenting, and if you have the philosophical truth behind what you are teaching them as parents, they should come back. That being said, when they do that, when they go and explore the world, at 18 to 24, when all their peers are getting wasted in college and doing having promiscuous sex, then they will be reconning other environments for the potential strategic relocation of your family. They will come back with all kinds of stories of things that are good in other places, things that are bad in other places, lessons learned, and a better sense of who they are, which you will then have to adopt into your seventh generation warfare somehow. Willingly, you will have to, if you so choose, you should try to adopt their philosophy in. But kicking them out gives them that confidence to move. So better than anything else. And also, like I said, they can become forward observers on other areas. So you have 4 kids and they all travel out to different areas. They come back and they say, this part of the country or this part of the world really has it going on. There's so many opportunities there. Where we're currently at is toxic, isn't feeling right. I'm planning on going. I want to encourage all of you to go there as well. There's plenty of opportunity there. Why don't we take a trip as a family, go check this area out? Maybe we can move as a family. That's how it would work in the most healthy situation. So that also raises a question when to strategically relocate. I think the ideal time, I'm not to the huge tribe level yet. I don't have 4 generations of family underneath me. It's not second cousins who are all part of this 7th generation warfare tribe. Right now, it's me. And hopefully soon it's me, my currently 2 boys and a daughter, and hopefully more children in the future. So I'm not thinking, full on tribe, but at some point the idea is that they will get to a tribe level and they'll have to think of the effects on the tribe as a whole. For me, if I am to strategically relocate in my life, the ideal time would be after my children return from exploring the world, 18 to 22, when they are starting to figure out their romantic relationships. Maybe they find a partner while they're exploring the world. Maybe they come back and find somebody. It is actually part of the hero's journey in archetypes. The hero leaves the small town, goes out, explores the world, and comes back with a new perspective, and that tends to be attractive to women. So if you got male sons, the guy who left the town and came back tends to be more attractive. So maybe it's then they start thinking about finding a romantic partner, or maybe the area you're at is not good for finding romantic partners. That could be another reason to strategically relocate. Maybe all the partners your children could find just have shitty values in the area you're at, and so maybe they want to relocate in order to find a mate or a partner. But that would be the ideal time to relocate, before they start having children. So before my children start having children, if they say, hey, this New Hampshire place is really, I know you liked it 20 years ago, but it's really gone downhill. It's time to move to another part of the country. That would be the ideal time. But things always change, so you shouldn't limit yourself to the ideal. One of the reasons it is ideal is because I mentioned up above, you don't want to uproot children a whole lot. You can see this with military children who moved a lot as kids. They don't feel established as much, and so it's harder for them to set down roots. But also it can be traumatic to feel like you have a friend community as a child, and then it all to get kind of torn away. So I'm thinking more about kids in that aspect. But as the tribe grows, like I said, there's always going to be somebody who's having kids. When you're 3 generations into 7th generation warfare, there's always going to be somebody having kids. So ultimately, it's not the end of the world. If the reason for the strategic relocation is not something obvious and disastrous like war or natural disaster, I do think it's advisable to put forth every effort to make your family work or stick together in the current area you're at, because you can't fully grasp how deep and established those roots are until you cut them all off. So it's going to be in general, it is going to be beneficial for everyone to stay. That's the but if you gotta go, you gotta go. The last thing to watch out for is the fracturing of your 7th generation warfare unit. So as we get into developing our 7th generation warfare, we need to make sure that kids understand the value of family, and that they willingly choose to understand and be participant in that. Because when it grows, when you go from a family to a tribe, the amount of benefit that's going to come from that's going to be immeasurable. Just the in-group preference and the tightness of the community, there's going to be so much great strength in that. And so establishing that young, that like teaching them the difference between people who have that value and people who do not, and making sure that they do not take the decision to move away from that lightly, because they'd be giving it all up. That being said, this is 7th generation warfare, and if your children need to move away from you to secure their will, you gotta let them do it, and ultimately you gotta encourage them to do it if that's what they truly feel they need. So this was a video on strategic relocation. I think I did a pretty good introductory overview. In some future videos, I might discuss my own history of moving and some other aspects of strategic relocation. I'd very much like to hear your comments if you've moved, the reasons for your moving, and how it impacted your family. So this is Seventh Generation Warfare. I'm your current host, John Nelson. Have a good night.